All right, panelists, when you are back, if you would turn your camera on so that we know that you're here, that would be fantastic. Great. All right, Crystal, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks, Rachel. My name is Crystal Denning, and on behalf of the Nebraska Arts Council, I'd like to welcome you to this panel meeting. We have convened to review applications in the Arts Project Grant category. Decisions made by this panel will determine the funding for all applications. They will be reviewed by the NAC Council at the next meeting to convene on December 12th, 2023. Now I'd like for each of our panelists to introduce themselves to one another and to those listening, and I will call on you one by one. Rex, let's start with you.
Hello, I am Rex Barker. I'm a retired music educator at Millard South High School, Midland University. And I've been a band director. I am the recent past president for Nebraskans for the Arts. I'm currently a director of the Omaha Symphonic Winds. I live in Omaha. I'm happy to be a part of the panel today.
Thanks, Rex. Tabitha.
Hello, I'm Tabitha Dunham. I'm the Grants and Development Specialist at Mid-America Arts Alliance. I'm a former resident of Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Tabitha. Stacy.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Goodman, and I am a program officer at the Iowa West Foundation. I'm a lifelong resident of Council Bluffs, but prior to joining the Iowa West Foundation in January, I worked for almost 9 years at the Omaha Community Foundation. I've been involved in a number of performing arts throughout my lifetime and went to school for arts administration. Really glad to be with you today.
Thanks, Stacy. And Amy.
Good morning. I'm Amy Haddad. I'm a retired faculty member from Creighton University in Omaha. I'm a poet late in my life, and I'm a member of the Nebraska Arts Council Board, and I'm incoming chair of the Nebraska Cultural Endowment, and happy to be part of this panel.
Perfect. Thanks, Amy, and thanks, everyone. Next, Mike Markey is the executive director of the Arts Council. Mike, would you like to say anything?
I would. Thank you, Crystal. And good morning. Welcome to the panel, everybody. And I just want to say a couple things. One is that I want to thank all these panelists, and I encourage you, as you look over their comments and their considerations of your applications, to pay close attention to what it is that they have to say. These are a lot of professional panelists with a lot of good experience. Their input and their feedback is always very important, and congratulations to you for joining us this morning. That important step on improving grants or seeing what other people are doing as well. The other thing I'd like to encourage you to do is you always have take a moment or two to invite elected officials to your events. And on the backside of your events, make sure that you send a thank you note to your elected officials. The arts in Nebraska have done very well in terms of legislation and appropriations, the funding for it every year. And one of the large reasons for that is because of those letters that you send, constantly running into state senators that the minute they hear I'm from the Arts Council, they go, oh yeah, I get your letters, and especially about school bus grants and some of the other ones that affect arts education across the state. Those are all very effective. Your letters are well noted, and they do the job. So that said, I hope that you learned something today, and thank you for your continued support of the arts and for the programming that you do. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Crystal. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Next, Rachel Morgan is program specialist for this grant category. Rachel, would you like to explain the panel process to those listening in?
Absolutely. So I want to welcome the applicants and the organizations that may be listening in. I'm really hoping you're able to participate. I think this is a great opportunity to hear the conversation that the panelists have about the application. We will take the applications in alphabetical order by the applicants that are on today's review. I will give a very brief synopsis, which is really the description that you gave us in your application. And then the primary reviewer will go first, secondary, and then we'll open it up to the other applicants. We will go through all of the applications that are scheduled for today, and then we will end the live stream when the panel begins their discussion about funding. Those decisions will be brought to the Arts Council at their next meeting, which is in December. And after that, our grants and data administrator will be in touch with you about funding decisions at that point. The process today, you do get to listen in. You don't interact, but it is a great learning experience to be able to hear the conversation that happens today for the next application that you write for us.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, just really quickly to recap what Rachel said before we hop in. Before each application, Rachel will provide a brief synopsis, and then I will then call on the panelists one by one for your comments. We'll start with the primary reviewer, the secondary reviewer, and then the remaining reviewers one at a time. So let's hop into the first application. The Asian Community and Cultural Center.
So the brief summary for this is this grant will be used to help pay for the artists who will perform during the Asian Community and Cultural Center for their AAPI Heritage Month celebration. This event is held at the Lancaster Event Center in Lincoln on May 19th. They estimate around 1,200 people will attend this event from all over Lincoln and Omaha.
Thanks, Rachel. Amy. Amy, I believe you're on mute. It's not a Tuesday.
All right. Now I have to go back. Just a second. Okay, so just to mention, I think it's important as we hear my comments, especially in this artistic quality category, that they plan to use any funds awarded to pay the artists and performers. So in the description at the beginning, they use a term that they call cultural unity, and it really isn't defined. And I think that that's a very interesting concept, and it would be helpful to understanding the aims of the project, of the event, for them to define what cultural unity means. And it appears in last year's program that one of the cultural dance groups involved the audience too. And I didn't see that in the description for this year. And I think it would be a wonderful and perhaps necessary activity to engage willing attendees in cross-cultural in a personal way. The artists that are mentioned in the artistic merit section do not match the artist bios in the document. And again, the primary work sample includes a Mexican folk dance group video, but they are not included in the artist bios documents. So if there are differences between who they anticipate having in this year's program and who they had in last year's programs, it would be helpful if they just made that clearer. The program from the 2023 event is helpful to see the range of performers that they did have in this year's event. Moving on to planning and evaluation, it appears that planning begins quite near the event, yet the narrative indicates that planning for participating artists is already in motion. So again, if what they're doing and what they have in the timeline for their planning, if they can be more in sync to indicate the work that they're doing, that would be helpful. It would also be helpful if the timeline clearly reflected when it starts, as I've already said, and then the full names and titles of those with responsibility in the planning process, so that we can see who's involved and who is responsible for the different actions in planning the event. I think the survey is a good idea. It doesn't indicate that the survey or any evaluation was conducted in prior years. So it's hard to tell if they are building on what they have already developed or if this is new to them. It isn't clear to me how they will gather helpful feedback from Facebook viewers. I don't understand how that would work, and it would just be helpful if they could explain that. This is more of a technical thing. The budget pages were hard to read. They were kind of cut off at the bottom, but I was able to read the final budget page indicating expenses and revenues. So I could see that. And what I could see there, I thought was fine, given the project scope and the artists that they are going to have at the event. Moving on to outreach and engagement. Since this organization specifically identifies the Asian community in Lincoln, I would have thought that they would emphasize the number and diversity of what Asian represents really throughout the whole document. I didn't see that information, and it would have been helpful to gauge impact, particularly in light of the racism against this population that arose during the pandemic. It would have been helpful if one of the letters of support came from someone who used the services of the Asian Community and Cultural Center rather than just sponsors. So it would give us some insight into what their outreach is and who they are as an organization. Very nice that they will provide transportation to those who need it to the event. And that's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Amy. Stacy.
Thank you, Crystal. I appreciated how they were noting the importance that this community event plays at the community level. I appreciated that it was a strong referral source for some of those human service partners for clients of the Asian Community and Cultural Center, and also that it does target the full community at large so that those who may not have previously had the opportunity can experience some of those cultural traditions across a wide range of areas. The selection process for the cultural performers was not described in a lot of detail. And so I would have appreciated a little more understanding of how groups are selected and how they round out that programming for the day. When you move on to the planning and evaluation area, really, I appreciated how their goal of preserving traditions and customs really connects to the mission of these grants. And did want to note that I think the goals were a little difficult to put metrics around and really define success. I feel they did have a robust plan to ensure a successful event and that their budget did seem reasonable. One of the items to call attention to that I had noted was just checking insurance coverage. I think they did put that on their timeline to get an insurance form, but I did not see any specific expense. So maybe that's covered elsewhere, but that was something, just knowing the scale of this event would be a question that I had as I reviewed this application. And I also really appreciated the broad range of community partnerships when we move into the outreach and engagement area of the rubric. They really do have a large number of community partnerships to enable the success of the events. And looking from the performers to the vendors and the various outreach they do for attendees, I felt that that was strong. I too would not want to repeat, but just echo Amy's comment that the letters of support were very strong, but I did think that the client voice was lacking in some of the materials, whether support documents or in some of their narrative answers. They really did a nice job of highlighting that demographics were an important driving force, but some additional details and definitions around that would have been helpful. And I did really appreciate how they were looking at some of those underserved populations and really defining specifically those Asian, African, Arabic immigrants and refugees that are our clients and are a key audience for this work. So that was an area of strength that I just wanted to note as I was reviewing the application. And that concludes my comments, Crystal.
Thanks, Stacy. Rex.
Again, I think you've encapsulated really what is happening with that. It seems a little bit loose, but they're seeing like that's their methodology of communication with their clients, with that group. I appreciate very much the outreach and the effort that they're making to put this program together. Thanks.
Thank you. And Tabitha.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I really appreciate the impact and the outreach that is going on through this event. My main issue with the application was the goals and how they relate to the evaluation. I'm not sure, how all of those goals will truly be evaluated. For example, how are you assessing the awareness of local residents and their appreciation of other cultures? Just something to think about.
I was muted that time. Thanks, Tabitha. Now, please take a moment to adjust your scores if needed and raise your hand when you are done so we know when to move on to the next application. Thank you. Okay, the next application, Capital Jazz Society Incorporated. Rachel?
The Capital Jazz Society is a nonprofit organization that presents a series of high-quality jazz events on Monday evenings throughout the year at the Storm Cellar in Lincoln. And you will notice these are for the events that happen January through June so that it fits within those event start and end dates.
Thanks, Rachel. Amy, start with you.
In the artistic quality category, I had several questions. And again, this grant is going to use the funds to pay the artists, so you focus a lot on the artist part of it. So it isn't clear how many artists are paid. The application states that there are 12 events, but not how many musicians are involved at each event. And if they are not sure who will show up, and I appreciate that. I mean, it is, iffy sometimes if they're going to be able to attend or not. It would be helpful if they could offer an idea of the amount of money paid per physician. I'm sure, I'm saying this again, I guess, because I ran into it twice. I'm not sure who the artists are that are involved in the project from the summary statement. And how many students are involved? Where do the students come from in regard to age or level in school, geographic draw, etc.? It appears to me that there are two components to the project, the Big Band Series and the Lincoln Jazz Series, that have different aims. This could be clearer. It would be helpful to list the artists that were involved in the past in the Lincoln Jazz Series, as it looks like they are soliciting applications now for the 2024 series. It would give us an idea of who applies. Who are those in the great number of Nebraska's finest jazz musicians? I see that later in the artistic merit section that there are examples from prior years. However, it still isn't clear how many musicians are paid at each event. What is the process for selecting artists? Did all the artists apply? How many do they select? And what artists are actually paid? So those are kind of echoing questions in this whole artistic quality section. Moving on to planning. The administrator appears to be a qualified musician and performer in many different types of venues. The artists are selected on a sort of rolling basis that take into account many factors, including availability of artists and student schedules. The goals of the project are two-pronged: free quality jazz performances for the public and the involvement of student musicians with professionals. Although the application states that they evaluate success on audience attendance and response, as well as feedback from the musicians. So just are the goals and what they're measuring in alignment, and it seems a little bit off to me. The methods that they use to collect the feedback are pretty casual and could be tightened up to provide more consistent and useful responses for future planning. The budget item for Arts Incorporated management fee is not explained in the application. Who or what is this? And finally, in outreach, the community demographics information for the Lincoln community is very general. Specifically, is the project engaged with the colleges and university? It lists in some way. Might they reach out to the members of the community who might be interested in jazz, free concerts? Where's the Storm Cellar in Lincoln, where they're going to hold the jazz events? What is the neighborhood there like regarding possible engagement with the project? How have the promotion efforts used in the past worked? The letters of support from educators, though, were helpful. And that's the end of my comments.
Thanks, Amy. Rex?
Yeah, and I have some personal experience with this series, so I can offer some additional insights that were not mentioned necessarily in the application that Amy did explain, that it is not real specific which artists and things like that. It is a very flexible group. There's kind of a core big band that typically shows up, but even there'll be subs that, based on personal schedules, will be in and out of the group. The open mic kind of concept, who's going to sit in with the group, is always very flexible, and that's probably one of the unique aspects of it that I value very much, is that we don't have a lot of opportunities for younger or a 50-year-old that's never gotten a chance to sit in with the big band, an opportunity to do that. And I think that offers this opportunity that is very unique across the state. So I did appreciate that. I think, again, in the planning, the timeline, budget, things like that are very reasonable. I think they're well laid out and well thought out. I think they fit with a typical musician mindset, as well as the long-range planning for that. I would appreciate a little more communication. I didn't see the specifics about who they reach out to, those communications with the schools, the colleges, and then out to the community in general. I think it's been a long-standing event, and so I think that word of mouth communication is what's carried that for quite a bit. The feedback, and again, the data collection really should be just a little bit more defined and a little bit more clear as far as that. I think it's been, again, ongoing for so long that it's kind of found that happy place to be there, and it does serve a great purpose. So the outreach to the community, the folks that are looking for that kind of a free jazz performance, I think, are aware of it. Again, I think a lot of word of mouth. So new consumers are not quite as aware of that. That's kind of my oversight. Thanks.
Thanks, Rex. Tabitha?
Thanks. I also have a bit of personal experience with this organization. from about a decade ago. And so as reading through the application, I can kind of fill in the gaps myself. But I think it would help just to strengthen the application if you write it more from just assuming that nobody has any idea what your program does, or who you reach, or really how you evaluate the program, and thinking about any questions somebody might have, and then filling in those gaps in your narrative. I will say that the outreach and the inclusion of amateur musicians is something that is really special, and something that is not always included in other organizations, throughout Nebraska or even around the country. I think it makes this program really unique and really worth funding.
Thanks, Tabitha. And Stacy.
Yes, everyone has very much covered so many of my comments. Just to add on a couple of items, I echo the evaluation piece, and I think that this art form can be a little more of a challenge to be able to do that evaluation, just as there is the improv and flexibility that they bring to this. But I do think that that is an item that would be helpful to stress moving forward for future applications on the feedback loops and how they are doing that evaluation for both participating musicians as well as audiences. And also just want to echo that those opportunities for students or amateurs to participate can be really transformational. And this seems like a very intimate setting that can really have a true impact on participants and audiences. I think that their outreach could be a little more explained in future applications, but also I think there could be an opportunity for some additional outreach for those who are not already in their network of learning about this opportunity.
Thank you, Stacy. Now take a moment, please, to adjust your scores if needed, and raise your hand when you're done so we can move on to the next application. I got you, Amy and Tabitha. You can put your hands down now. Thank you, though. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. The next application, City of Columbus. Rachel?
So this grant application is to help pay for performers for the summer concert series. The summer concert series is held on Thursdays and Saturdays, beginning the first week of June and ending the second week of August. The concert series is held in the heart of downtown Columbus, which is Frankfort Square, and they anticipate more than 10,000 people attending throughout the summer.
Thanks, Rachel. Tabitha, we'll start with you.
Okay. I thought, looking through the application, that the City of Columbus takes the artistic quality of the series very seriously. I appreciated that they look for the variety in genres, recommendations of others, and the experience of the artist. And I liked that they mix it up between returning artists and new artists in their lineup. I thought the work samples were very enjoyable and conveyed that very well. I thought it was also probably important to notice that their event does extend past the grant period, but they say that they're going to expend all of the grant award before July 1st. Let's see. Then moving to the planning and evaluation section, the goals described indicate the project will reach community members and celebrate unity and diversity. I thought the goals to celebrate diversity in musical genres and unite the community through music are broad, and might be a little hard to evaluate. Then it goes on to talk about how Frankfort Square is a symbol of social progress. I was a little unsure how this translates to a goal, and how you measure and evaluate that as well. The evaluation question itself stands on its own. It just doesn't directly tie to the goals. So thinking about that will help strengthen your application in the future. I understand what you're doing, tracking audience members and social media engagement to kind of determine how popular the event is. I think, again, to strengthen the application, you can include some metrics. How many likes on social media are you looking for? How many people are you looking for to attend the event? Things like that. I thought the timeline and the budget were both clear and realistic. My one question about the budget is there wasn't anything listed for marketing or overhead expenses, and it seems like something of this large and with fairly, good description of promotion here would include some marketing expenses. Take the opportunity to really show the full scope of your budget, and that also will allow you to show where else you have support for your programming, which always strengthens the credibility of your programming as well. And outreach and engagement, I thought it was just wonderful how centered on community this program is. I thought it's great. It's accessible in both price, location, and it's very inclusive. There were great community partnerships listed that I think will help enhance this series. The one thing is there's no additional outreach engagement listed. Other than that, I really appreciated the letters of support you submitted as well.
Thanks, Tabitha. Stacy.
To start with, on the artistic quality of this application, felt that it was a nice blend of having local artists and bringing in some outside regional artists. I think that was a very smart move, not only to generate local parents, grandparents, friends of local performers, but also to allow access to some performers others may not be able to experience, and appreciated the variety of programming that is being slated and looked at as part of the event. In terms of the evaluation, I think that the goals, as Tabitha had noted, are just a little bit more difficult to measure. So if there are comments to be able to have a little bit better definition on what success looks like in terms of metrics or things that you're looking to track. But I did think that from a planning and evaluation, this really is a strong tradition and a very big community asset that is contributing to quality of life for the area. And so I feel that it's, very has a good track record for their planning document and timeline. And the budget definitely seems reasonable and realistic for the efforts they are doing to book those 15 performances. In terms of the outreach and community engagements, I also appreciated the work that is being done to engage the Hispanic population and increased accessibility with some of your materials and partnership that has been done in that thread. And so wanted to commend the efforts that are happening there, and also to commend the partnerships that are happening with schools and different community groups and local organizations to ensure success. I think that something that really stood out on this application was the work that you're doing with the lawn chairs on the square to not only have the arts component, which is so important, but also to be able to have this as an opportunity to integrate some wellness initiatives from other parts of the community. So you've done a really great job on that connectivity there, and want to commend you for a strong application and impact on the community.
Thanks, Stacy. Rex.
I agree. You've both done a great job of encapsulating kind of this application. It was very complete. I think one of the strengths is in that planning, that way their organization is put together. There's a lot of good stability there. And so I think that tradition is carrying on, that they have learned from previous years what they want to tweak a little bit. The evaluation component, I'd love to see a little bit more of that, just black and white numbers with some of that I think will again help them understand where they're going with it too. I think it's gotten great connection, both in their promotion of the event and also in their support mechanisms. Thanks.
Thanks, Rex. And Amy.
Echo most of what's been said. I love that the Parks and Rec Department took this over, and that it is a project that existed before an event and that they took it over. And I've not seen that before. It's just nice to see that continuity in the community. The counting of people at events always intrigues me, and you can't eyeball that because you're always going to overestimate how many people are there. So some kind of plan that they might be able to include an evaluation piece with it. So even just having that much of an assessment, and not everybody always fills out surveys or whatever, but it would give them a better idea and would give us a better idea about the impact and the number of people that attend. That's it.
Thanks, Amy. Now please take a moment to adjust your scores if needed, and then raise your hand when you're done, and we'll move on to the next application. Perfect. Thank you all. The next application is the Grand Island Music Series. And Rachel, I'll turn it over to you.
So the Grand Island Music Series is a new concert series taking place at Steuer Museum and College Park in Grand Island. There will be 5 indoor concerts at College Park, and the funds requested for 4 of these concerts. And then there's 1 outdoor concert at Steuer Museum, and all of these happen between January 2024 and June of 2024.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, and Rex, we'll start with you.
In looking at the artistic components of this, I think as a new series, they've done a really nice job of getting a balance of kind of local feel types of things with the groups they've chosen, and yet some also things that the community wouldn't have access to necessarily. They're all very high quality ensembles and soloists. I appreciated that there's a series, so it's a season that also has a free ticket component to it as well. And I think the season package is a reasonable price to fit into the community to make that work. I think the time frame is good, and I think the connection to those campuses, the College Park and the Steuer Museum thing, are strengths. Though there are activity going on around those events, and I think that will draw people to both of those spaces that are really good. I think on the planning side, the timeline is very well thought out. Again, I'd love to see a little bit more on the evaluation side of things. They're again talking about Facebook comments, and again, you can read positive or negative comments, but it's not the black and white numbers of the outreach on that. And I think we're all learning how to use that social media. I think it's great on the promotion side. It's difficult on the evaluation side of things. I appreciate the outreach to the schools, the community there. And I think, again, there's a good connection with the other organizations in town, the media, as far as the promotion of things. I think for a new series, it seems to be getting good traction. I think even in the first year, it seemed like there was a good response for something that was new. And so I'd like to see them continue to get that promotion and build on it.
Thanks, Rex. Amy. Amy, I believe you're on mute again. Sorry.
Okay, now I'm back. There we go. Okay. All right. I didn't have much more to say in the artistic quality. I think that the aim is clear, and what they're going to do, where they're going to do it is clear, and the range of artists and music is impressive and does seem to have something for everyone. In the program and evaluation comments, the administrator is experienced, but this is the same administration, Arts Incorporated, as it is for a previous grant that we've reviewed today. And so what is in the information about the administration bios and responsibility section and coordination of finances, that's exactly the same as the information that is in the other grants. So there's no differentiation here between what this project involves as far as the administration and who is going to do what. And what I read is more of a bio for the administrator and not so much information about who's responsible for what in the planning, the project's finances and coordination. So, so there's that. I would like to have differentiation about what it is that the administration is going to be providing for this particular grant in the area of planning and evaluation. I don't know how they can tell how many people they have at the concerts. That's not information is not provided. And what did the attendee feedback from previous years tell them about how well they achieved their goals? Are there other ways that they evaluate performances? Examples of how evaluation led to changes would be helpful. I think the timeline seems reasonable, but I'm not clear on who carries out all the planning activities. I didn't have any further comments on outreach and engagement.
Thanks, Amy. Tabitha.
I think the first two reviewers did a great job of summing up this application. The only thing I would add is in the planning and evaluation, and this seems to be a theme. The goal seems very clear to me. You're trying to provide a variety of performances to appeal to a wide range of ages and demographics in Grand Island, which I think is clearly articulated throughout the application. However, the evaluation doesn't match that. So maybe consider tracking audience sizes and maybe surveying your audience so you can find out about their demographics. That way you can truly speak to the wide range of ages and demographics in Grand Island.
Thanks, Tabitha. And Stacy.
I echo all of the comments that have previously been stated. I would just also highlight and reiterate the importance of evaluation. It looked like they have kind of a paper-based part of their program where they encourage folks to respond. I think that if there's ways to gather additional information, like Tabitha noted, that would be helpful. Or even if they're trying to engage across different mediums. So even if they added a QR code within there, if somebody wanted paper-based, and if they wanted somebody to do something on a phone while those ideas are still fresh, I think that there's an opportunity there to gather some feedback to not only help understand the success of what they're doing, but it sounds like they are very open to and eager to get that past participant feedback in planning what their future programming is going to be. So I think that that was just something to reiterate is the evaluation piece. And then also, I really did appreciate the diversity of programming that they are trying to provide and the fact that the demographic information of the area is being used to inform that, even if they may not be exactly capturing the demographic information of people who are attending.
Thanks, Stacy. Now, please take a moment to adjust your scores if needed, and then raise your hand when you are done, and we'll move on to the next application. Perfect. Thank you all. The next application is the Kimball Concert Association. Rachel?
Great. Looking at the time, I thought we would do one more and then take a break if all of the panelists are doing okay. Great. All right. So this grant application will help the Kimball Concert Association keep going in their 45th year. And it is for they are for funds for the artists who will be performing for the patrons and ticket holders. On Tuesday, March 5th, they are hosting Camille and Stewie, and on April 14th, Brandon and James. They are planning to serve a little over 250 people with this event that brings in people from the Kimball area and the surrounding areas.
Thanks, Rachel. Stacy, we'll start with you.
Yes, so in looking at the artistic quality aspects of this application, I felt that they really had strong work samples and bios provided for the performers that are being brought in. I think it really is a testament to the importance that this concert provides to the community in the fact that it's the 45th year of these concerts. And so I think it's become a very strong community resource and wonderful that they have the longstanding track record to inform their programming, but also as kind of a marketing piece there as well. In terms of the program and evaluation, I felt they had clear goals and a plan for measurement of those goals. And due to the longstanding history of the project, they have a very well thought out timeline for this. I think that, the artist fees seem reasonable, particularly in fact that this is bringing in some national artists as national touring artists. And so I felt that they had a budget that was reasonable and it makes sense there. In terms of the community outreach, I felt that they had some very strong letters of support with the city being supportive of this endeavor as well as the school superintendent. I do think that they did a nice job of outlining that they are an underserved community with not a lot of arts offerings due to their population size as well as their remote location. I do think that the application could have been strengthened by providing a bit more demographic information for folks unfamiliar with that community to better understand the makeup of the community and how demographics are informing their programming and also helping inform what they feel is a feasible production budget and the number of attendees and those kinds of things.
Thanks, Stacy. Tabitha.
I thought overall this was a very fantastic application. It's really well written and communicates all the aspects of the programming very well. I thought the artist section was wonderful. I like that you're bringing in national artists as well as highlighting local artists. The work samples were really great, and I appreciated all the artist bios that really strengthened the application. And I appreciate that you work collaboratively with music educators in your community to help promote the event. In the planning and evaluation, the administration of the program seems very strong. I love how you listed your goals. They were extremely clear. They're very well measurable, and your evaluation directly relates to the goals, which was excellent. Both the timeline and the budget seemed clear and realistic. I also appreciate the effort in bringing arts experiences to remote and a rural area. I echo what Stacy says. I personally don't know much about the area, so talking a little bit more about the demographics of that area would have been helpful. The outreach engagement is the one part of the application that I think could use some more detail. I don't really understand what your plans are for providing additional outreach engagement, and it seemed very like we might do this, we might not, we'll see what happens. But I did really enjoy reading your letters of support and thought they were also very strong. Thanks.
Thanks, Tabitha. Rex.
Again, knowing the territory just a little bit, I think this is an excellent project. Again, support. I'm glad they're drawing in the artists they are on the planning organization there. I think in really pretty good shape. The evaluation, like we've talked for everything, is always one of the bigger challenges. How do you really know if you're getting what you're hoping to get? And they are making great use. That is a nice facility out there. One of the things I thought that would just polish the application a little bit, there were a few typos just here and there, just a couple little minor things that took that off just a little bit. But again, I think reaching out with the extra rides and all of that. I think it really will make that performance in that space a real focus for the community.
Thanks, Rex. And Amy.
Just a little funny thing that showed up more than one place. There's another timeline for a different project included in this application. I just noted it there. It follows their timeline. And then it showed up in another grant. I don't remember which one now, but anyhow, that was just a little ghost was there from something else. And then I thought it was very interesting in the engagement part that they mentioned that they have this large temporary worker population. I don't know if anybody else mentioned this, so I apologize if I'm repeating, but this is interesting population in their community who may not really be in for the long-term development of what they're doing there, but they might take advantage of the arts offerings while they work there. And I thought, good for you to pay attention to a population that's somewhat transient in the community, but are a part of the community for a time. So I found that very interesting and strengthened the grant for me. That's all.
Thanks, Amy. All right, and if you will take a moment to adjust your scores if needed, and then let me know or raise your hand when you've done that, and we will turn it over to Rachel for a break. Thanks, Tabitha. Thanks, Rex. Stacy. Thank you. Rachel?
Great. So looking at the time, it's about 10 o'clock. So 10:05, 10:07, about a 5-minute break. Sound good?
All right. We'll see everyone at 10:07.
Wonderful. And panelists, oh, look at you. Yeah, if you could remember to turn off your cameras and audio, that's perfect. Thank you.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to get ready to hop into our next application, which is the Lincoln Community Foundation. Rachel.
Events take place on Wednesdays from May through September of 2024. Events for this application will take place on Wednesdays from May 2024 through June of 2024 because of the fiscal year, with an additional concert on Thursday, May 30th, which is their Gift to Lincoln Day. So that's how they will participate. These are free public concerts and are held over the noon hour in the outdoor pavilion near the Lincoln Community Foundation Garden. And the funds are to help support these free weekly concerts in downtown Lincoln.
Thanks, Rachel. Tabitha, we'll start with you.
Okay, I was really excited about this application. I feel the event has great artistic quality. I love that the artists are varied and they cover a wide range of genres, and they really mean something to the community members. That's fantastic. I also really appreciate the location of the event, that it's outdoors, it's in the middle of downtown, and it's accessible. I thought that mentioning all the different types of groups and different types of people that attend the event is really a strong point for the application. They mentioned families with small children, people with disabilities, and some other groups as well. I think that's really great. I like the casual atmosphere. Kind of takes place over a lunch hour. It just seems like a really great community-centered event. As far as the goals and the evaluation, again, I think the evaluation part of this could be more clear. It seems like there's one staff member that is kind of conducting the evaluation for the whole event. And I think you could get better feedback and a better idea of really the true impact, which I think would be wonderful to showcase if you're directly surveying your audiences. Stacy mentioned for a different application using a QR code or something like that. If that was available to audience participants and they can give their feedback right there, I think that would really help. The budget was clear. The timeline was also very clear. Again, I've talked a little bit already about the impact and the outreach that this program provides. I didn't see any sort of additional outreach engagement event. If there is, that wasn't clear in the application. But overall, I thought it was really great.
Thanks, Tabitha. Stacy.
Thank you. I echo all of Tabitha's comments. I think that this has a real strong community commitment to it, and it's wonderful to see the number of people and variety of people who choose to engage as performers or audience members at the weekly performances. I wanted to also highlight the fact that this is the 50th anniversary is something that, being that long-standing, really is a testament to the importance that this has been for the community, that people continue to show up and that those who help present this continue to offer that. The fact that it is an anniversary year, I think, will be exciting for some of the promotional and outreach opportunities connected to the upcoming series. With the qualifications of performers and leadership, I felt all were all very highly qualified. And because it's got such a long track record, I felt that the planning process was very strong with this. And I also appreciated the process that is involved in selecting the artists for all of these performances. In terms of the outreach, I know that Tabitha commented on this, but they did a great job, not only on demographic information, but also on some of the storytelling to support how this kind of a performance is needed for the community. And really, they did a great job of demonstrating those underserved individuals that may not be able to access or may not feel comfortable accessing some other arts performances if it were not provided in this venue or in this way. And so wanted to certainly commend them for that. And then I'll just put a ditto on Tabitha's comment on evaluation, that I think that they do have a very, clear goals for what they're seeking to accomplish with these concerts. But in terms of how they're defining success and how they are getting those feedback loops built into their process, I think that there could be some opportunity there moving forward.
Thanks, Stacy. Rex.
I'll concur with all of the discussion that's previously occurred. You've encapsulated that well. Also note, I thought the budget was very reasonable for what we're asking of this event, and I think that in and of itself is very telling that they can put it together well without having a huge budget. And I think that also gives it a different feel, different flavor to the event a little bit. It's a little bit more open and a come all kind of a feeling to it. So I like that part of it. Thanks.
All right, and Amy.
Additional comments that haven't been mentioned yet. So again, the administrator is the same person from Arts Incorporated. So there isn't information about who's doing all these different tasks that need to be done. There is someone mentioned in the planning named Susanna. I don't know who that is because she's not mentioned in the document. So it would help to see who's involved in all the activities that are part of this grant. I thought it was odd that there was no representation in the administration part from the Lincoln Community Foundation. And since they are the recipient of the grant, I would think someone from the foundation should be involved in supervising the grant rather than just Arts Incorporated as the partner or contractor. I wondered about the makeup of the selection committee because they mentioned several times about how important the diversity of performers are, but it would be, I think, important then to also include diversity on the selection committee from these various communities, which could impact decisions about which artists are chosen. And the letters of support were from two performers, a person who's a performer and also attends the concerts. But the application mentions many times that there are facilities that care for people with handicaps. And as I said, they mention this multiple times as an audience that they reach. I think it would be very helpful then to gauge that impact by having some kind of letter of support from one of these organizations that see this concert as an opportunity for their residents. That's it from me.
Thanks, Amy. All right, if you will take a moment and adjust your scores if needed, and then let me raise your hand once you have done so. Thank you. All right, the next application is Merrymakers Association. Over to you, Rachel.
This grant is to help pay for contracted professional musicians to provide live musical entertainment on a monthly basis to senior citizens at 5 Nebraska senior communities for 6 months. The project will occur between January and the end of June of 2024 and will provide approximately 30 live performances and achieve approximately 900 direct contact hours with participating seniors. The project will also positively benefit the lives of participating seniors in a variety of key domains.
Thanks, Rachel. Amy, we'll start with you.
I thought the bios for each of the musicians were very clear and helpful in evaluating their expertise as musicians and then also their ability to work with their audience of elders. The consistency of performances over a 6-month period also gives the residents at the different partner facilities something to look forward to each month. I really like that there is this more than one and done sort of approach with this project. And the range of types of music and the interaction of the performers with the audience made the events inclusive and engaging. In planning and evaluation, the evaluation plan appears to be an effective way to gauge the impact on the audience members. Beyond the activity director's feedback, it appears that participating seniors directly offer feedback to the Merrymakers Association. It would be nice to see some of the seniors' comments in the application. The planning seems to be reasonable, as does the schedule and the budget. On outreach and engagement, there was a very good explanation of the over 65 plus audiences and the difficulty of getting live music performances by professional musicians in Greater Nebraska to them. There was a clear explanation of how the performances serve this audience, and bringing music to nursing home residents dramatically increases access to this populations. The letters were helpful, and the added benefit of the music for the staff was also surprising to me and delightful in a way. And that's all of my comments.
Thanks, Amy. Rex.
I agree. The artistic quality is well versed and I think well suited to the intended audience as well. I think that ability to engage with what they're seeking, I think, is important in this case. We're not trying to necessarily expand their horizons and teach them a whole lot of new stuff, but I think offering that genuine interaction and knowing some of these artists, I think it's more than just putting on a performance, but it's actually engaging and speaking with the audiences. They're all small audiences, and so I think that intimacy is really important here, and I think makes a difference. On that, the planning and evaluation seemed very logical. I think there's evidence of good management there. One of the things I thought that was a strength of this was the evaluation, the feedback, again, as Amy mentioned, from a number of different angles. I agree. I noted as well. I'd love to hear something from the audience general, but my mom, having been a nursing home administrator for years, I know the impact that these types of events can make. The budget and timeline were all in good shape. I thought the outreach and the connection with other groups in the area, I thought was really good. It's not just that one center, but they would invite people from the area to participate as well, and encouraging that. So it's not an event that was exclusive to just those that were easily reachable, but they were making efforts to go above and beyond on that. So thank you.
Thanks, Rex. Tabitha.
I'll just add 2 other points. I think if you include a video of the performances or past performances, that would help the panelists experience the program a little better. I did really enjoy the photos though. And then the second thing is, I really thought in your outreach engagement, you talk about how you're participating in local publications. I thought that was really creative and a really great way of accessing the whole community. It's something that's unique and special.
Thanks, Tabitha. And Stacy.
I echo all of the comments that have been noted and would just add a couple things. Within the artistic quality, I also think that they've really got a model that is a great efficient model, that it allows for, you know, the number of dollars that are utilized, and being able to have a performer be able to be a one-person show and provide that experience. Really allows for that special intimate engagement with the residents that Rex mentioned, but I think it's also, from a budget perspective, makes it quite efficient for these kinds of opportunities to be provided. So I commend the model that has been developed for this. I think that the planning and evaluation is tremendous, but I would say that some of the metrics that are being proposed as part of that evaluation may be a little difficult to measure versus just some of the impressions that those facility or activities directors are seeing. So I think some of them are easier to visualize. Some of the other ones may be just a little more challenging in terms of how they're actually measuring those versus some anecdotal information. And so that was just something I wanted to highlight, that I appreciated all of the impact that is made possible and how you're looking to that as an evaluation tool, but how are those things being directly measured and used in your evaluation? And then the final addition I had on the community outreach and engagement, I appreciated the inclusion of the newsletter in your supporting materials, and an item that I thought was really great that was able to come back now after COVID is to have some of those facility directors get together and get updates from Merrymakers, but also for some of those facility directors or activity directors to be able to network amongst each other so that they may be learning not only about the impact and possibilities through Merrymakers, but just having that network of peers that may or may not have opportunities to gather otherwise, I think was a nice side benefit there.
Thanks, Stacy. All right, if you will take a moment to adjust your scores if necessary and raise your hand when you are done, and we will move on. Thank you. All right, up next, the Metropolitan Community College. Rachel?
This is MCC's 33rd Annual International Fair, and it will be held in April at the South Omaha campus. The festivities will begin with a naturalization ceremony that welcomes new U.S. citizens. They'll have diverse artistic stage talent, which will begin performing at noon and continue throughout the day, along with opportunities to visit cultural and informational booths. Audience members can attend in person or online.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, Stacy, starting with you.
Thanks, Crystal. I apologize. I just closed a window, so let me get my notes organized here. In terms of the artistic quality, I felt that they do have a strong slate of high quality and a wide variety of arts programming that is slated to be provided. Due to its history and also just the breadth of information and experiences included, I felt that this made a strong case that it's an important asset to the community, and really did appreciate the bios so that we can get an understanding of the range of experiences attendees may have. When looking at the evaluation details, I thought there could be a little bit greater specificity to the goals. And so I think because those may not be as specific, evaluation could be a little more difficult for them. And so just looking to see some of the impact options beyond tracking just attendance or how things line up budget to actuals. They have a very clear planning process and a production checklist. And when we look at the outreach, I think that they have done an excellent job on, grab this. Sorry about that. They have articulated those goals. One thing that I had said on the evaluation and planning was just they didn't reference, as I was looking, kind of what typical attendance was. And I think that with this experience, a lot of people drop in and drop out, but it would be helpful to kind of understand on average what each of these experiences are. I did appreciate that they had highlighted the video of last year's event so that you could drop in and see how each of those featured performances was offered. So the fact that that work sample was provided was a real strength to the application. And I also appreciated that they have a variety of times for those performances. So the fact that it's 30 to 60 minutes for each performance was quite strong. I did note from planning and evaluation that the budget was realistic and reasonable for the scope of work. But just as I mentioned a little earlier, there may be an opportunity to lean in and better define some of those success metrics, but they did have very robust planning, documentation, and timeline. One item on the outreach and engagement that I wanted to note is just a better understanding of community or donor support. I know that they are matching the NAC requested amount, but it looked like it was coming maybe from just general Metropolitan Community College funds. So if there is some of that financial buy-in, better understanding where those matching sources are coming from. Also, as we've noted in some earlier applications, the letters of support were very strong, but it would be wonderful to be able to have a client or an attendee's perspective in the letter of support. It looked like both of those were from the individuals who had served with the informational booths and were sharing information with attendees, and felt it would be really helpful to have some of the attendees or clients be able to share their perspectives. And then also, they did a very good job of making the case for engaging some of those who are underserved. So understanding that they're really targeting attendees from international students, immigrants, refugees, and others from diverse cultures. Thought that that was a very strong thing. And also, I commended them for them wanting to leverage the resources surrounding the day. So the fact that they said other programs at the Metro Community College campus are encouraged to schedule campus visits as part of their program for that day, so that some of those students not only can get to experience a campus visit and their specific program, but they can also drop in and have an experience with some of these artistic performances or interaction with some of the vendors.
Thanks, Stacy. Tabitha.
Okay, I thought this application demonstrated excellent artistic quality. I love the diverse and the broad range of the cultures represented and the relationship of the artist to the community. The work samples were great, fantastic. I love that your program includes demonstration of folk and traditional arts. That's unique and wonderful, and it's also a priority of the National Endowment of the Arts. So just kudos there. The virtual option that you mentioned is also a really nice touch. I think this helps to increase accessibility to your audiences, and that was something that we saw a lot during COVID, but has gone away for a lot of programming. That, good for you for keeping that option available. In planning and evaluation, I thought the goals were clear and they relate directly to the evaluation. The application would be strengthened by giving examples of the question and the questionnaire just to understand how all of the goals are evaluated. I can kind of fill in the gaps and guess, but if you could just spell it out, make it clear and eliminate the need for guessing, that would just help overall. I appreciate the inclusion of the review of the questionnaires and how you use the questionnaires to plan for future events. The timeline and the budget were both clear and realistic, and the budget matched your request in the application. Under outreach and engagement, I thought it was an amazing impact and reach to underrepresented communities. The list of community partners is also impressive. The only place you could improve here is by adding an additional outreach activity.
Thanks, Tabitha. Rex.
Again, concur with all of the statements. One of the things I really appreciated was the tie-in with the naturalization ceremony. I just thought that that's a perfect blend of things. And so I think on the artistic nature, I think having that, again, very open format to bring artists in of all the varieties, I thought was excellent for that opportunity. Planning, again, I think there's good evidence of planning in budget, timeline, follow through, assignment duties, and all of that. Evaluation, as we've mentioned, is always the challenge. How do you get black and white details in an audience that's coming and going quite a bit? One of the things that I would like to see on the outreach side of it, this again has such a great human interest that I would love to see more invitations to media, get those folks engaged with it. I think I'm aware of this event in town, but I haven't seen a lot of coverage of it. So I would love to see a little bit more of that. So it, again, here's what's going on, and I allow that to reach out back to the to the population across the area.
Thanks, Rex. And Amy.
Sorry. I really didn't have anything to add. I think people touched on everything that I had in my evaluation. I too was very impressed with the ceremony that opened the fair and thought that was a very important touch. And the folk art and culture components were really impressive too. That's it.
Thanks, Amy. All right, if you will take a moment to adjust your scores if necessary and raise your hand when that is complete, and we will move on to the next application. Thank you. All right, next application is Nebraska Trumpet Ensemble Incorporated. Rachel.
The Nebraska Trumpet Ensemble will present one in-person concert in Lincoln and 2 live-streamed trumpet recitals as part of their 2023-24 concert series. The Trumpet Ensemble will also schedule educational concerts for elementary school students in Lincoln and concerts at various retirement communities in Lincoln. And this is for expenses and artist compensation for events happening January through June of 2024.
Thanks, Rachel. Rex, we'll start with you.
Again, into the artistic area here, I'm a trumpet player, so maybe I'm biased, but I'll say that up front. But these are, I know all of the artists, and there are the best we've got in the state. And so that professional exposure to that literature is again unique and something that I believe we want to promote. It certainly doesn't have to be limited to that in this down the road, but to bring this quality of experience to the area is important. And I think one of the things that I appreciated about it, it's not just the in-state musicians, but they're drawing in artists from across the country. Over the history they've had with this, and they do have a longer history of this ensemble performing across the state and carrying on and building an audience. So I think the audience is building. In the planning, again, I think there's a long history of how they've done this, and it's been successful for them over a number of years. I do appreciate that they make an extra effort to say this is a family-friendly event. That they're not trying to be, yes, professional, but not highbrow, that we exclude people. And so I think that's an important feeling, a different approach to it. On the, again, they do the surveying, the Facebook likes, and a lot of that. Love to, again, get even more information and feedback. But one of the other components I think that helps with the outreach is the NTE connection. And also the responses they get there back through back channels, as it were, a little bit with NTE. The budget seemed reasonable. They were good about giving us the demographics. The programming was there. Again, I am aware and have seen many of the flyers and postcards go out. I do appreciate, again, the free live stream. So it opens up the access and their outreach with besides NTE, but the Lincoln Public Schools. I also thought that they had a letter from one of the guest artists that talked about how it was communicated. And I think that also then brings back a very positive reflection on Nebraska across the country too, to say, hey, here's something that is supported in Nebraska. Maybe we need to do that in Montana or North Carolina or some of those other places that we're in. And the last part I have is that I appreciated one of the feedbacks was from Gateway Vision. So dealing with some of the health services that tied into this performance series as well.
Thanks, Rex. Amy.
In the artistic quality, I will just mention again that the idea that they have continued with virtual concerts as well as the in-person one, I think is very good and We haven't seen that with a lot of these, and so that this is exceptional in that regard. As far as planning, again, we have just a standard bio in the administration with the same administrator on other grants. So there isn't really any mention of persons responsible for the different activities in the plan. I didn't see dates for the concerts at the schools in Lincoln, but there were dates in the project description. So it's just the planning and the project description should kind of match up. They said that they have a questionnaire in the program for the events, but I didn't see any information from past audience evaluations, which would be helpful in two ways, to see what questions are being asked and to see the audience answers, and then what changes are made from year to year based on the audience responses. In the community engagement and outreach, I will mention another that's just been repeated in more than one grant with the same administrator. It's the demographics of Lincoln. And there's not anything that I saw that was specific to this particular art form and the audiences that they're trying to reach. I didn't see that there was information about the effectiveness of their promotional materials that seemed to include Facebook and postcards. And letters of support from an artist and a retirement center were helpful. That's it for me.
Thanks, Amy. All right, Tabitha.
I thought the mission of this organization is unique, and it's wonderful how you're focused on preserving and advancing a very specific genre or trumpet music. That's pretty cool. In the planning and evaluation, I'm just curious how you evaluate whether or not the performance reaches a wide variety of people. That's listed in your goals, and then I'm not sure how you demonstrate that. I really appreciate the attention to performing in accessible venues and the removal of financial barriers, especially through still live streaming your concerts. And think there's wonderful outreach engagement listed here. This is one of maybe 4 or 5 applications we've seen that has the same administrator. And I think that is a really smart approach to smaller arts nonprofits, kind of sharing those back end resources. So I think you could maybe explain that a little bit clearer to people that don't understand that connection though.
Thanks, Tabitha. Stacy.
I echo the comments previously shared. The only item that I wanted to tag on was in the outreach and engagement area of the rubric. If I was reading the application correctly, it sounded like their board this past summer voted to provide in-person concerts free of charge. And I think that really is a move to increase accessibility and really make this programming available to underserved populations. And so want to commend the organization for steps they are taking to really allow this programming, whether it's in person or what they're making available through a live stream, even more accessible to patrons.
Thanks, Stacy. All right. If you all take a moment to adjust your scores if necessary, and then raise your hand when you are done, and we will move on to our next application. Thank you. All right. Partners for Livable Omaha. Rachel.
This grant will help pay the production staff and performing artists who perform during a 2-day, 2-location outdoor performing arts festival, which is called Pull Up and Vibe, PUAV, if you want to acronym that. It will be held, one will be held in the Benson Creative District on May 3rd, and the other on the Healing Roots African Diaspora Garden on May 4th. They estimate 3,000 people from the greater Omaha metro area will attend.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, we will start with Stacy.
All right, thank you. In terms of the artistic quality, I appreciated that the artists and art forms presented were demonstrated to be clearly important to the community. And I really, as an item of strength with this application, noted that it's focusing on local artists and providing new and additional platforms for those local artists was definitely a strength of the application, as well as the wide range of artists and art forms. And in looking at the resumes, it does seem like the resumes of those artists involved do look like strong bios for performers and the artistic quality that's going to be provided. When looking at the planning and evaluation, I think that they have a clear set of goals and also a nice tie-in for the methods that they want to evaluate their success, from looking at elevating those local performing artists, also as a new emerging festival, the fact that they're looking to grow their audience and track that is important. And then also, I think really looking at how they are tracking their artists and the compensation that those communities of color are having as a compensation tracking for their creative work is something that I thought was a nice metric to be tracking. They had a clear project timeline, and I thought that their budget seemed realistic and covered all the necessary items. In terms of outreach, I think they did a very nice job of making the case for how the demographics of the area are informing the need and the programming that's being offered. And they made a strong case for support that the audience they're serving is underserved with this type of programming not being readily available. Also, it seemed like there's significant partnerships and outreach being conducted. And the thing that really stood out for me as an item of strength was the letter of support. Both of the letters of support are with key partners, with the different venues and partners that are being engaged. But also, I think it was great to show that there is clear alignment and there's been historic authentic engagement with each of these partners. So it really felt like a natural transition to have this festival be able to utilize both spaces and have this expand from what was previously offered for the festival.
Thanks, Stacy. Amy.
Just a few things to add to those comments and echo a lot of them in my evaluation. I love that there's an open mic option at the concerts in Benson, and the involvement of the Omaha Mobile Stage. Kudos to whoever invented that, because that is a real valuable partner to have this kind of concert be successful in the outdoors where both of the venues are going to be. I love that it was in planning and evaluation that the Benson Creative District is involved in as a partner in this, and it will increase the diversity of attendees because of what is already happening there during these concerts. I wasn't sure how the evaluation that they get from the artists was going to be helpful to improving the experience of the attendees. I can see how it would help improve the experience for the artists, and that's a good thing, but also that they would want to know, what the experience of the audience was too. And then finally, I too thought the letters of support were very strong, and they provided excellent information about both performance sites. That's it.
Thanks, Amy. All right, Rex.
Again, I think the areas here, Healing Arts area and the Benson First Friday, my sister was a photographer for Benson First Friday from the beginning of that event, and I've watched its growth, and I think this fits in with that. The artist area, again, the open mic, the local involvement, but also a unique art form approaching that and planning for that. I think this will be good for us as an organization to watch because, again, the clientele and the audiences for this is different. And so we need to look at how we feedback or evaluate those types of things. I think the planning is there. But this is much more from my understanding, again, way back the Instant First Fridays and a lot of there's a ton of word of mouth and social media types of things. One statement I thought I really appreciated in the kind of in the planning and the evaluation was they expect creatives to be paid for their work. And then that's part of their evaluation as well. And I think that is an area that is, again, unique a little bit in how we're evaluating some of these. So I appreciated that. And again, I think the evaluation and the outreach, there are lots of connected groups and they talk a lot, and that communication, again, is not as black and white. So how do we bring that down to something we can compare and evaluate in a black and white model? And so I think that's unique, and I think that's one of the things I appreciate about this is how do we fit into the mold and how do we adapt as well? Thanks.
Thanks, Rex. Tabitha, sorry. Tabitha.
Thanks. I'll just echo everything else that has already been said. The two things I'll add in the evaluation section, just maybe putting more of an emphasis on your audience and gathering feedback from them. I think that'll help you really understand the breadth of the impact that your project has. And under outreach and engagement, I would just like to know more about the opportunities that you have for the artist talks and chats and the podcast element as well.
Thanks, Tabitha. All right, if everyone will take a moment and adjust their scores if necessary, and then raise their hand when they are done. Thank you. Rachel. I'm sorry, I should introduce the next application. Apologies. The next application is River City Mixed Chorus. Now, Rachel.
Thanks, Crystal. Panelists, if it's okay with you, I thought we'd do one more and then take another break. All right, this grant will help cover performance expenses for the River City Mixed Chorus's Summer 2024 concert at the Holland Performing Arts Center on June 8th of 2024. They estimate 1,300 people will attend the performance.
Thanks, Rachel. And Rex, we're starting with you.
Excellent. On the artistic side, I thought very strong there. They have good leadership and they've expanded their leadership team with this as well in recent years. They had good coverage and all of those leaders have connections across the community as well. One of the things that I would love a little bit more definition of is, again, the growth and expansion of the group has happened very quickly. So that rapid growth, it does say that the singers are auditioned, but I could use a little bit more delineation of what that is. You know, how are they chosen? Because 150 singers, there's already a broad range of abilities and skills just in that sheer number. The recordings that are evidenced in the programs that were given and the video recordings, you know, kind of that very popular rock, pop music genre, Broadway, all of that, I think very good. I think it's meeting a need. I think it's unique in what we've seen in front of us today. In the planning, I think the timeline and the delineation of duties there is very clear. I kind of appreciated the budget looking at this. This is what I would consider an audacious budget. It's really built to be a large production. And I think that fits if I go back through and looked at the programs that are put together and on a lot of that, I think it matches. And so I thought that was a good thing. The testimonials that are there, from both the members and the audiences were very evident. I appreciated the multimedia things. I think there's certainly a unique makeup of this, but I also appreciated the no physical barriers, both for the audience and the performers. I thought that was a unique component to it. I thought the fees for the members themselves were on the high side, but to see what's a fairly high membership fee is not making a negative impact on the growth of the organization. So to me, that tells, that says there's a lot of value there. Their connection with, again, First United Methodist and OPA out in Nebraska, using local instrumentalists, I thought was really strong. Making connections with the other churches, strong letters of support from, I thought the local businesses was a little bit unique, that they were saying they could sense that impact. But again, hosting it at the Holland and just really making it a fairly major event. And again, if this is, as they advertise, the 5th oldest LGBTQ plus choir in the country, I think to see the success they're having is very positive for me.
Oh, thanks, Rex. Tabitha.
Thanks. I thought the artistic quality of this project is very, very clearly articulated and very strong. I really enjoyed the work samples that you provided. And I really appreciated the descriptions of your leadership, which seemed very strong, and the history of your organization. It's fantastic. In the planning and evaluation section, I thought the goals were clearly articulated and relate directly to the evaluation. I appreciate that the goals can be measured. Specifically, you provided measurable metrics for ticket sales. Thank you for including the expected number of attendees as well. The evaluation also lists who will be responsible for data collection, and that's great detail. Seems like a very solid plan. The budget I found to be one of the more impressive parts of the application. I really appreciate the detail that you put into the budget, and it seems to totally flesh out everything that would be involved with a production like this. And it also gave you an opportunity to show all the support, financial support that you have for this program, especially from people attending the concert. It's very impressive. It says over $35,000 in ticket sales. The budget makes sense as far as your ask, which will be used for instrumentalist and sheet music. The program impact is very strong and compelling. I love that you mentioned using an ASL interpreter as part of the plan. And you've got other very inclusive and access related goals. The application provides compelling outreach engagement. Thanks.
Thanks, Tabitha. Stacy, apologies.
No worries. I do not have a great deal to add because many of my comments have already been covered by Rex and Tabitha. The couple of things that I would just chime in on also are some of the more intangible items that they were referencing in their application on really how, from an artistic quality, not only are they doing the artistic performance, but that they are seeking to build a sense of belonging and really looking at that sense of belonging for both the participants who are creating the music as well as their audience. And so I thought that really was a great perspective on the artistic merit of the application. And then in terms of the final portion of our rubric with the outreach and engagement, I think that this application and this program in particular had many, many examples of great outreach and community connectivity. And so I know we were evaluating this request for this sole performance, but it really does, a strong case was made for how the organization and their performers are actively participating in so many different activities throughout the community to really live their mission, but also help support fellow organizations and missions throughout the area. and be a true partner in some of those efforts. So I think that that also was something that was a great item of strength from the application. And then also just wanted to commend them on very strong letters of support. It was wonderful to have the perspectives of a donor. And then I think Rex did highlight this, but also having a performer who is also involved with a business's ERC. It was great to see them seeing this organization and their performances really as an extension of some of those resources for the work they are doing within their company. So really commend them for the creativity and a unique way to look at that.
Amy.
Just a few things, and echo all the very positive comments about this particular grant application. It wasn't clear to me exactly how the feedback that they're going to be getting from the audience will be elicited. So maybe just a little more clarity about that. And for using only local musicians. So another helpful thing for supporting the arts in the community. That's it.
Thanks, Amy. All right, if you all take a moment to adjust your scores if necessary, and then raise your hand when you're done. All right, thank you. And it looks like we're going to take another break. Rachel, do you want to say 11:05?
Exactly what I was thinking, Crystal.
Perfect. All right. See you all at 11:05. All right, welcome back, everyone. We will hop into our next application, which is the Salt Creek Song Festival.
Before I jump in, I just want to make sure. Okay, great. I wanted to check on Stephanie, make sure she was with us. Thank you. All right. So the grant application is to help pay artists to perform as part of the 2024 Salt Creek Song Festival season, which is held in the Creative Arts District in Ashland, Nebraska, from May 19th through the 25th. They estimate 250 people from Saunders County and the surrounding region will attend these free events.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, and Rex, we're starting with you.
Hey, I appreciate they've got a theme. It's about time being their theme. I think if I look at the artistic, again, a nice variety of local musicians and other artists. Good sample videos to give us a good idea of what's gone on in the past. The artistic thing is very strong. Again, they've got with Gretchen coming in from as the founder and having a good vision for what this is, and then the addition of Jared Heisak from as the artistic director, and his connection at Hastings College expands that reach, I think, for this, even though he's living in Ashland right now. I think having this connection, again, they're promoting the planning and the thought of the creative district. And I think, I know with Nebraskans for the Arts, we've had some engagements with the community in that fashion, that we hosted one of our retreats there and saw the connection with the businesses and the community. My daughter lives in Ashland, and as a young person there, she feels and senses that artistic nature to the community. I think in the planning, they've got a good, again, timeline with it and delineation of duties. The budget seems very reasonable. One thing that I thought I was curious a little bit about was they list a number of fundraisers and have a pretty good income from those fundraisers, but it didn't really give me any other details where that income was coming from or how it was broken down. So one of the things I did also appreciate is they have a lot of good in-kind budget issues with the different businesses that are connected and plan to participate. I think the general demographics are good and help out with that. I appreciate too that they are unique in this one, that they have open rehearsals to show the process, not just the final product. And I thought that was unique to this from the educational standpoint, and really opened it up to being a little bit more free form and having that engaging quality to it. They've got good plans as far as promotion and outreach with both digital and social media, radio, television, print. I think they've reached out to neighboring communities. I thought their target of 250 people was low. I think that's conservative, and I think they'll have a great opportunity as this grows and gets promoted to grow the event. And so I think, again, the evaluation pieces seem to be there, but they were not as strong as I would like to see. There was a lot of word of mouth. So I'd love to see just a little bit more of that. I think the connections with the senior centers and businesses was very good. The suicide prevention was a unique part to me that I thought was there. As one of the letters of support, and then I know Caleb Thione with the economic director for the city of Ashland as well. And so I think that engagement, this really does have a strong community element across all venues for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Rex. Amy.
I agree with Rex's comments that I thought there was such an intentionality in the content of this application, new compositions, backstage question and answer, busy boxes, just all these different ways to experience sung music for a variety of attendees. They did have a festival in 2022, and they commissioned a new work, which I just thought was amazing. So kudos for that. I would have liked to have seen any results they had from any kind of evaluation from the 2022 festival. That would be very helpful to see if there is any, and then how the findings from that impacted their planning for this year's event. And I agree with the engagement of the community, and I like that they make a point of saying where they sit between larger communities, Omaha and Lincoln, and that this is the kind of event that would draw even from those different cities to Ashland to see this. I especially like that they partnered with the Oxbow Living Center to reach an older population who might find it difficult to attend. So overall, I just felt this was a very strong grant and very interesting one.
Thanks, Amy. Tabitha.
Yeah, I'll echo the first two panelists and say this was an extremely strong application and very interesting and enjoyable to go through. The only thing I'll add is that I really appreciate your emphasis and work in rural communities and the providing sensory friendly opportunities. I think that's amazing.
Thanks, Tabitha. Stacy.
I agree with so many comments that have been made. I think that to kind of piggyback off of some comments already stated, the variety not only of the performances, but the venues and the different opportunities for engagement to really enhance someone's experience, and the fact that they can plug in wherever is going to be meaningful or comfortable for them really was something that I felt was a strength of this application. I love that they allow people to start the day with a coffee chat and to talk about what they're experiencing and seeing, having the opportunity to have some of those open rehearsals, see a performance, and then be able to have a chance to reflect and have some of those after performance conversations with artists and attendees. I think it really creates an opportunity for a well-rounded experience. And I also think that Tabitha's comment on being able to be aware of some of the sensory features and the fact that they intentionally program for something to be no longer than 40 minutes was something that I think that they are really showing extra levels of awareness for some of those different audiences that they intend to engage with. With their outreach, I think others have stated it, but I think that this festival's success has really been dependent upon those partnerships with local entities, whether it's businesses or venues or being able to show how that really connects to the community. So I think their letter of support from an economic development perspective, as well as some of those other pieces, just really made for an enjoyable proposal for us to experience and learn about the work they're doing. I think that I would echo the evaluation comment on just trying to continue to refine how those feedback loops are going to be there and how they're going to be using the feedback to inform future planning. Will definitely be something we can look to as what they've learned in 22 for their plans for 23, and then what that might mean for the future for the festival.
Thanks, Stacy. All right. If everyone will take a moment to adjust their score if necessary, and then raise your hand when you're done. All right, thank you very much. Our next application is Table Grace Ministries. Rachel.
Thanks, Crystal. This grant application is to help pay performers, directors, and for the set design. Table Grace the musical, which is written by Simone Weber and Jay Gish, is based on the mission and outreach of Table Grace Ministries in Omaha. The musical will include a fully staged production, dancing, singing, costume set design, and storytelling, while engaging local talent that will share the mission of Table Grace with the Omaha community. The performance dates include June 20th to the 29th in Omaha, and they're estimating 1,050 people from Omaha will attend.
Thanks, Rachel. Amy, we're starting with you.
Okay. As far as the artistic quality, the core group who are working on the musical's development seem to have the experience needed for such work. The audition process for the actors and musicians seems reasonable, as does hiring for a stage manager, etc. A sample from the script was interesting and gave a little insight into what they are trying to do in representing the work that they do to feed the homeless. The video of the performance in 2016 was very helpful too. My only concern is that this could all appear as a sort of commercial or marketing tool for this very worthy organization, rather than the creation of art. In this case, a musical with a very specific message and mission. So if you look at the project description, they very clearly state the goal is to engage and inspire the community to become involved in the Hunger Outreach Table Grace Cafe Mobile Grace food truck offer all year long. And those two things together are what gave me pause in reading this. Not that art can't be used to move people to become involved in a charitable organization. And again, I'm not questioning the goals of Table Grace and their food collection process in the community and who they serve. It's just that if that's the goal of this whole project, for me, I started to look at it in a different light. So in other words, if this was only the development of a musical, even one that involved people who are homeless and those who serve the homeless, but wasn't deeply connected to Table Grace and its organization and financial stability, I would view the artistic quality very differently. So I just wanted to bring that up at the outset, that this has kind of made it difficult for me to work between those two, the artistic merits and then the marketing aim of the project description. The project goals reflect the dual aims of the persons responsible for the project and the community restaurant and mobile food truck that aims to feed those in need. There are a lot of hopes in their goals, but not as clear methods to reach them. The partnership with Creighton and the Lead Center are promising and could provide a lot of opportunities with various departments at the university, such as social sciences, the health sciences, law school, etc. These are not mentioned, and I wonder if they are just using the theater rather than really partnering with the abundance of groups and programs at Creighton that could really add to the impact of the production. The methods of evaluation are somewhat unclear. How are they going to get verbal and written feedback from the attendees? The third goal, again, is directly tied to the work of Table Grace and the people they serve, which is fine, but doesn't relate to the art, the musical, rather to the mission of Table Grace. And finally, with community engagement and outreach, the application reflects a great number of partners in the community beyond downtown Omaha, as well as a deep understanding of the facilities that serve the homeless and the hungry. Those are my comments.
Thanks, Amy. Rex.
Yeah, again, a very unique proposal. And I had some of the same initial thoughts that Amy did, kind of that commercial versus artistic crossover. One of the things I was trying to read into the application, and I didn't see any direct business connections. We're not doing an event at the restaurant. It'll use some of those scenarios, but we're not actually doing something in the space. And I think that, again, this goes into the artistic, but also a little bit of the planning piece. Yes, we're dealing with kind of that homeless, or again, a very underserved population, but we're doing it at Creighton University space. And I thought that kind of helped blend the two together. And as I thought about it, kind of that commercial versus artistic, I went back to their mission and the statements in here where they talk about feeding people. And to me, the feeding people, are we feeding people in this case with both a blend of food and art? And so I really loved that connection. I'd love to see them expand on that even more. That the feeding of people is not just the food, but the art at the same time. And I think this opens up a really great potential for that. There is some planning. I have, in reading again the backgrounds and the bios, they're very strong people, great intention. There's not a lot of experience in the team, that they've not done one of these before. This is going to be a first-time effort. And so I think some of the planning and budgeting timelines are a little bit loose right now. I'm not sure that to put something more defined down would be honest. So I think loose in this case, since it's a first-time effort, is honest, but I think I go into it with just the kind of thoughts of be careful, make sure that you really do stick to a lot of things so the follow-through is strong. I think the human interest on the outreach and the could be very strong. Again, it's unique to Omaha. In this particular presentation of creating art out of a need, I think is very unique. Again, the evaluation needs to be, again, a little bit more black and white to be able to sell and develop this even stronger. Thanks.
Thank you, Rex. Tabitha.
The only thing that I'll add to the other comments is, I really appreciate the intersectionality between the arts and sort of the social services area that your project expands into. I think anytime the arts can combine with another area of need just strengthens the way the community views the arts, and it helps to I don't know, it's just a creative approach to getting people involved. And I really appreciated that about this application.
Stacy.
I also wrestled with the application, just in that it is very different from a lot of the other ones that were under discussion today. But I would say that, to add an additional comment similar to what Tabitha was noting, I really feel that the inspiration and the purpose of the project are very timely, and it does really reflect those intersections that so many of our neighbors are experiencing. And so I do think that the content is being driven by some realities and things being experienced by our community. So I think that lends itself to a strong artistic piece. But I also think that when you look to the artistic quality portion of our rubric, it would be very difficult to unwind kind of this as an artistic offering, as opposed to what it is doing in terms of those human service needs being filled by the cafe, just because they are so intertwined as a topic, but also as a connected organization that is helping put this production together. And so I appreciate hearing everyone else's take on this as well, knowing that I am excited for there to be some new content being generated and to have an original work being taken on by some performers, and it looks like those being engaged have very strong bios, but its close connectivity to the human services piece and its connectivity to promoting and marketing that could drive some financial or other types of returns is just something that I was aware of and wanted to note as I was doing my application.
Thanks, Stacy. All right, if everyone will take a moment to adjust their score if necessary. And then we will move on to our next application. And if you'll raise your hand when you've done so. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next application is for University of Nebraska Kearney, Department of Music. Rachel?
This grant will help commission a new concerto for euphonium and wind ensemble to be premiered at the Great Plains Regional Tuba Euphonium Conference, which is held at the University of Nebraska at Kearney in May of 2024. The piece, which is composed by award-winning composer Dr. Ian Lester, will celebrate the city of Kearney's 150th anniversary and will be inspired by the annual migration of the sandhill cranes through Kearney.
Thank you. And Stacy, we're starting with you.
Thanks, Crystal. In looking at this application, I felt that from an artistic quality stance, this is an internationally known composer and soloist. And I love that it also has a significant importance to the community, both in recognition of its anniversary, as well as the iconic crane migration being the inspiration for this concerto. It feels like they have very highly qualified performers and administrators. The one piece from the artistic quality was just as an item of concern is that there may be a somewhat limited reach for this, knowing that it is initially connected to the conference for the euphonium and tuba. So just knowing that that will be really driven by the attendee mix at that conference. In terms of the planning and evaluation, I think that the planning on this proposal was very well done and the goals were straightforward. The budget appeared to be reasonable. And I did appreciate that they are excluding some of the things that would be handled for larger promotional efforts connected to the conference. So I appreciated that this request was very straightforward and connected to the commissioning of this piece. In terms of outreach and engagement, they did have very strong letters of support from the Kearney Concert Association and the UNK Director of Bands. I appreciate from an accessibility standpoint that the admission to the concert was free. And just acknowledging that that premiere concert is going to typically appeal to a specific audience, but I do appreciate that they indicated in their application plans to make this available to a broader audience. So I hope that there's going to be some engagement with the city around the anniversary celebrations. And I also appreciated their note that they're wanting to make this available to those other organizations that have a very clear connection in their mission to the cranes. So they mentioned the Audubon Center and the Crane Trust. So that also offers additional impact beyond that initial performance. I also really appreciate that not many people get the chance to encounter new music at its premiere. So I think that being able to have audience members have that experience is a real strength of this application. And I really do think that there was responsiveness as they were looking at the best way to look at a topic and inspiration for this piece to tie into the anniversary and items that are very iconic to the community of Kearney.
Thanks, Stacy. Rex?
On the artistic side, agree with everything Stacy was saying. Commission is there, the artistry involving the wind ensemble at UNK. Wayne Bierman is a fine conductor. I am aware of the composer a little bit, and his previous compositions have been well received. I think hosting this workshop for the Tuba Euphonium group is again unique, and will, I think in this case, again, carry on some of the good artistic work that is happening in Nebraska beyond our borders. I think that will say there are things going on. I love it's almost similar in some ways to what Table Grace was thinking, that we're combining kind of two elements a little bit with the preservation of cranes, which is, again, that migration is unique to Nebraska and unique to that part of the state, along with the 150th anniversary of the community and the commissioning of this piece. So I think all of those elements together are going to really connect with a large audience. The planning, the timing, The assignment of duties, I think, are well thought out. Knowing the people in those capacities, they will follow through on everything. On the outreach side, I thought there was a strength that they're doing some of the work at UNK, but then also involving the great performing arts center that Kearney High School has. I think there's, again, it involves different audiences that way and will draw people in. And I think having this commission available will attract other groups beyond it. It's one I would look at and consider performing with my Omaha Symphonic Winds. It'll be a new work. It has a lot of great connections. And I think other schools around the state, colleges and high schools, will consider performing this piece down the road, and then also beyond our state borders. So I think there's a lot of strong merit here.
Thanks, Rex. Tabitha.
I agree. This was a very strong application. Thank you so much for all the detail you included about the background of the composer and the details as to the importance of the commission to the community. Echoing what Rex said, I think this is a really fantastic opportunity to bring visibility to the community of Kearney, and that's awesome. I thought the goals were all obvious, realistic, and the evaluation was very well done. And I also really appreciated all the detail that you provided for the outreach engagement events and taking this beyond just the conference.
Thanks, Tabitha. Amy. Oh, you're on mute.
I apologize very much. I don't know what happened. So let me see if I can get back to where I was. Okay. I was starting to say that I unfortunately disagree with some of this. Just to say that the grant is for the commission. So as I listen to others speak, we're sort of filling in the areas that should be there in the grant that I didn't see in the grant. I don't see how they mentioned the Crane Hill Trust and other things. They mentioned the 150th anniversary, but I didn't see anything in the grant that would show us how it's connected to what amounts to a regional conference. There is no they include information about the wind ensemble and their tour and other activities that will be part of the conference. But if you're not going to attend the conference, then it's not going to reach the audience beyond the people at the conference. That would seem to me it would be a fairly narrow one. I think the person that is going to create the concerto is certainly qualified to do that. I'm not questioning that. It just seemed odd to me that they're asking for funds for that, as opposed to asking for funds to engage the community. And I don't see any information about how they will reach residents in Kearney who might not have anything to do with the conference. Is this concerto part of a larger celebration of the foundation of Kearney? Those connections are not clear to me, and they would be an important part of the grant's impact on the community. That's it.
Thank you, Amy. All right, if you will take a moment to adjust your score if needed and raise your hand when you have completed that. Thank you. All right, moving on to the final application for the day, and that is Wakefield Progressive Incorporated. Rachel?
This grant application is to help pay for artists performing at the Wakefield Party. which is a music festival and will be held on June 1st in 2024 in downtown Wakefield, Nebraska. They estimate 300 people from this tri-state region, which is Iowa, South Dakota, and Nebraska, will attend the event. And the funds will be used to pay artists performing at the event, along with some of their travel expenses.
Thank you. Tabitha, we'll start with you.
Okay, I really appreciate the time and the effort that seems to go into selecting the artist for the Wakefield party, and the important impact it seems to have on the community. I guess I'm curious as to how long this event has been going on. The history, more of the history of it, I think would strengthen the artistic quality section. I really enjoyed the work samples. In the planning and evaluation section, I thought that there were pretty clear goals, and the methods for the evaluation that were described directly tied to those goals. Just to strengthen it a little further, I would love to know how many people you're expecting, how many attendees you think the event would make the event successful. I love the idea of gaining feedback from the local businesses you engage, and I love that you're gathering feedback from event attendees directly. The timeline and the budget both seemed clear and realistic. I thought the budget was very well done with the detail, and especially in the income section showed the community buy-in. In the outreach and engagement section, I appreciate your efforts to reach the Spanish-speaking community and to provide access to senior members of the community. Also the reach to individuals from rural areas and the military veterans and active duty as well. There were great collaborations listed in outreach engagement, and I enjoyed reading the letters of support as well.
Thanks, Tabitha. Stacy.
I would echo Tabitha's remarks. A couple of items I would just add on, particularly in the planning and evaluation area. I want to commend you for the work and your strategic use of the online ticketing system as a source for some of that demographic information. So being able to track how many tickets are being sold at individual price points, whether it's senior tickets or adult tickets. I think that that's been a great use of that online ticketing system and good strategic use there. I also think the outreach and community engagement piece that you noted, your strategic use of some pre-event Facebook events, sounded like that might be a great outreach opportunity, knowing that you're looking to have a draw from a outside of your area. And I would say that the artistic quality pieces, it was great to see how you are going through the booking process. But I also really appreciated from the partnership perspective how this really has been demonstrating that economic development driver for your area. And from the community level, it's been wonderful to see the collaboration that you have done and continue to have planned for the upcoming session.
Thanks, Stacy. Rex?
Yeah, when I originally kind of read through the mission statement, it seemed very initially economically driven on the and so the artistic side concerned me just a little bit. They are using some fine musicians, artists that I would respect, and they have good connections. But then I also thought about how we as Nebraska Arts Council or Nebraskans for the Arts, we speak in that promotion of the economic strength that arts can bring. And so I'm okay with it. I like that, and I think we need to consider that, and I appreciate that Wakefield has done that in this case. So the artistry and how they're using it is positive for me. I was interested, and I want to see how the move from where their original location was to downtown works for them. I think there's potential there. The title of it, party, again, ties in with that economic development and that positive atmosphere around it. I see good organization and planning. I see good ability to evaluate through the ticketing system. I'd love to see them get just find if there's an opportunity to connect with the other demographics that they're trying to track. And it looks like they're trying to find ways to do that. And so I encourage them to keep on that. But overall, I think, again, for that part of the state, and again, drawing that in, I certainly would support this project.
Thank you, Rex. Amy.
I don't have much to add. I think it's a great to see a collaboration between two arts organizations in the community, specifically. And I don't think it's a creative district, but they're acting like a creative district. And I think that's a good thing too. So those are all my comments.
Thanks, Amy. All right, if you will take a moment to adjust your score if necessary, and then raise your hand when you're done. All right, thank you very much. Now that all the applications have been discussed and scored, we'll take a 5-minute break. During this time, the NAC staff will tally the scores and prepare information for a final discussion. When panelists reconvene, we'll review the procedures and make final determinations. The final portion of this meeting is closed to the public, so we will end the live stream now. So to all those watching today, thank you for joining us and have a great day.
Wonderful.